Hello there, this is Brittany Chambers, and I am back today to do a tutorial using some really cute dress it up buttons featuring the Disney movie Frozen. So we have Elsa, Anna, and Olaf today, and I think we're going to be able to do a project with all three characters. Well, we're going to do multiple projects. So I'm really excited. We're going to make some jewelry using these cute little characters. We're also going to pair it with our Holiday 2021 Winter Solstice mix, which is a really fun, basically Frozen color mix, purples, blues, and crystals. And then we're going to use some seed beads in purple and we might use some check glass pearl in aquas in this aqua, and they're so pretty. They're matte. Today we're also going to be using some 20 gauge German style wire and our pliers. The first thing, we're also going to be using some E6000 with these really cute buttons. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it takes the longest, is I am going to glue a couple of our buttons. So I have these three buttons. I actually need two of the Olafs, and I've cut the shank off of this Olaf, but we will need to possibly cut the shanks off of these. We can decide that later, but Olaf definitely needs his shank cut off. I am going to glue something different onto the back of each one of these pieces. So from our Winter Solstice mix, we have this cute little glittery enamel snowflake, and then we also have a thinner, more filigree looking snowflake, and I got out a little jump ring. So for Anna, we will want to cut the shanks off of all of our pendants. I'm just going to go like this with my clippers. You can use fingernail cutters, you can use scissors, whatever works for you. I already put a bead of glue on the back of this one, but I'm going to step in there and snip that off just like that. I have a pair of tweezers, which is really helpful, and if you have a pair of non-stick tweezers, those are even better. I have some, don't know where they are. And then I'll put a bead of glue on the back of Anna as well. And then for Elsa, I'm going to use this large snowflake filigree stamping cutout piece, and I'm just going to set that on the back of her head, and it's actually going to kind of look like a crown once it's dry. And I'm going to take my tweezers and just push that down, and then we'll come to the front and just finagle it a little bit. There we go. See how that looks like a little crown behind her? It's so cute. I'll just set that aside. For Anna, I'm going to take the large snowflake from the kit and press that onto the back of her head, just like that, and use our tweezers or toothpick or your fingers to make sure that that gets a good little squeeze on there to get some of the glue onto the back. Now we're going to go around the front and see how it's kind of tilted a little bit. I'm just going to finagle that until it's in the right place. Here we go. And you might need to hold it for a minute or two. You want to have these dry for at least an hour before you start working with them. And then you really want to, before you wear your piece, wait overnight. For Olaf, I'm just going to turn him over. I'm going to get my glue out again. And this is where it helps to have tweezers. I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue right there. Well, it came out more, but you can get a more precision tip on your glue, or you can use a toothpick to take some off. I'm going to take my tweezers, and you see where the jump ring opens? I'm going to put that part in the glue. Just like that. And then if you have a toothpick or a head pin or an eye pin or just a spare piece of wire, just go like this to bring some of the glue up over the back of the jump ring. And if any glue is showing from the front, that's a good time to clean it up. None happened on this one, but it does happen. So we'll set those aside for at least an hour to dry. While our pieces are drying, I am going to take some beads from the Winter Solstice kit. And there are a bunch of mini beads in this kit, some really tiny ones like this. And what I'm going to do is make some little beaded dangles. So I have just some ball head pin pieces, but you can use whatever kind of head pins you want. I'm sorry, I have glue all over my hands. And I'm just going to make some dangles. And this is a thin enough wire gauge that I'm going to wire wrap these head pins. So I am just going to take it like that, bend back my wire, reposition, come back around, and pull that wire to the back to make a loop. Just like that. So we have our loop. And what I'm going to do is grab that loop with my pliers and then come in with a second set of pliers. And I am just going to grab this wire with my second set of pliers and come around a couple times. It doesn't need to be too much because we're not even going to see that part. It's just to keep it pretty secure so that the bead doesn't, or the loop doesn't open. You can do simple loops, but this is just a little bit more secure. So I'm going to just come in there and trim off my excess wire. And you're going to do that several times with a lot of the smaller beads in the mix. So as you can see here, I've pre-done some of those. And I used some pearls. I used like an elongated faceted bicone and some cubes. I'm going to cut a length of 20 gauge wire. And I always eyeball, but this is probably 6 inches, if maybe a little bit shorter. And I'm going to make a wire wrapped loop. Okay, so I'm going to come around. Just like we did before, but there's nothing on the wire wrapped loop right now. So I'm going to hold that, and I am just going to manipulate the wire with my fingers a couple times. Now, if you can't do this with your fingers, if you don't have the finger strength to do that, which some days I don't, I'm just going, you can just use your pliers like I showed a moment ago. So I'm just going to do a couple wraps, and then I'm going to snip. So here's our loop, just like that. I want it to be a little flatter than that. There we go. And I grabbed this enormous crystal from our mix. It's gorgeous. I'm just going to slide that on. And what I'm going to do also is slide on all of these. We're going to slide them on. So I'm just going to kind of go in like a pattern. I don't know. I'm just going to do it blue, diamond, one of the cubes, or rectangles I should say, and then a pearl. I'm just going to do that up the wire until we don't have any beads left. And I did 4 of each of these beads. Let those slide down. Okay, and then once we have all of those on top of our pendant, I'm just going to kind of move them around, let them wiggle a little bit. And I want to make sure that at least from one side of this bead, it looks like the wire is straight. So I'm going to just finagle that with my fingers. There we go. There we go. You're not going to be able to see much of that in just a moment, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to just kind of move some of these pearls so they're not all at the same side. And then I'm going to slide on one of these bling balls, or the Shambhala beads that was in this mix. Then I'm going to take a little flower petal bead cap and a spacer, daisy spacer. And then I'm going to do a wire wrapped loop at the top of this. So I'll take my multipliers, and then I will bend back, bend forward, reposition my pliers, and bring that loop to the back. Okay. I'm going to grab that loop with my pliers, and then I'm just going to wire wrap until everything's snug. There we go. I'm going to trim that wire. I'm going to make sure that the wire is trimmed in the back where the other wire is trimmed. So I'm going to go around one more time. Okay, just like that. So here's part of our pendant, but we're not finished with it yet. It is super cute the way it is, but it's not finished. Okay, so we have our little seed beads, and I have some 26 gauge wire. So I am going to spill out some of my seed beads, just a few, in purple, both purples, just like that. And I'm going to take a length of my 26 gauge wire. I would say probably 1.5 feet of this. Actually, that's way too much. You probably won't need 1.5 feet, but I always eyeball it, and I always eyeball way too much wire. And then I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to snug it up against the bottom of my little bead cluster, and I'm going to wire wrap just a few to get that going, to get that secured on to my pendant. I mean, I don't mind if you see it. It's just going to make it a little extra sparkly. Okay, so we've gone around maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'll trim off any excess wire at the end. Now with my wire, I am going to go and pick up some of my seed beads. So I'm going to do just 2 of each color and then switch over to the next color. So 2 dark purple, 2 light. I'm just going to do a few inches in that pattern. So here's my beginning of my pattern, and I think that should be enough, but if it's not, I'll definitely be able to add more. So I'm going to scooch all of those beads down to my pendant. Okay, and I am just going to snug that up against my cluster and wrap, make sure that tail's out of the way, and wrap that around my pendant. And you can wrap as many times as you want, but I'm just going to kind of go about enough to where I don't need to add any more seed beads. So it's going to be a little bit of maneuvering on your part to make sure that you end in the right spot. Okay, so I have 2 extra beads here. I'm going to take those off. And then I'm just going to wire wrap around the stem of that loop right there. So here we have this gorgeous pendant that has kind of like one of her Elsa's ice swirls going around it. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that that's really wrapped on there, and it looks like a really pretty messy wrap. I am going to snip here, and then I'm going to snip my wire up here too, so we don't have anything poking us. All right, and then I'm going to take my Elsa, and I'm going to connect her to my pendant. And it looks like her little ice tower, doesn't it? Makes me so happy. All right, so I'm going to grab another jump ring and feed on your button. And then we'll find the front. Oh yeah, that's definitely the front. And we will feed that onto our jump ring as well. If you want, you can absolutely add more dangles. And here is our really, really pretty custom Elsa pendant. Isn't that gorgeous? She's so cute. She's so sassy. And then I kind of really wanted the focus to be on this pendant in the button. So I grabbed a really pretty piece of Jessie James Bead's chain reaction, and we're just going to hang it from that chain. So it comes closed on a memory wire jump ring. You could use that if you'd like. I'm going to actually snip that off, or yeah, I would use a memory wire cutter to snip this because you don't want to damage your nice nippers, because it will damage your nice nippers. But I am just going to take that off. I am going to find a more heavy-duty jump ring. I'm going to cut this guy off right here. It's probably a 6mm. Same jump ring that I used to connect Elsa to the pendant. And then I am going to put both ends of my chain on the jump ring, but before I put the second one on, I'm going to put my pendant on. And then in the back, since this is short, I'll cut it in half and add a toggle or a lobster clasp, whichever you prefer. There we go. So there is our first piece, and it's so adorable and customizable in any color you'd like, but I loved this with the frozen theme. So pretty. Okay, so I decided that we're gonna make Olaf into a second necklace. We're not gonna do a pair of earrings, so I only need one of the pendants that we made, and I'm gonna clean up a little bit of this mess, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I grabbed another piece of my 20 gauge wire, and I am going to make this into a circle. So I'm going to do that. You can do it by using a pill bottle. You can use a mandrel. You can use a bead kit, like a bead holder that Jessie James Beads uses a lot. In this case, today I'm going to use this wire mandrel or plastic mandrel from Bead with the circle attachment, and I'm going to use some 20 gauge wire. So I'm just going to cut a few inches off, maybe 6, maybe a little bit longer. Okay, and I'm going to wire, I'm going to put my wire around not the largest one down here, but the third one up. 1, 2, 3. So the third largest size. I'm going to hold that around my mandrel, just like that. Okay, to get that shape. And then while it's on the mandrel, I'm going to kind of twist here and do a little wire wrap. So we have a little circle. Okay, not perfect, but it's okay. And I am going to snip this in the back. and then I'm going to straighten out my tail. For our pendant here, I'm going to put on one of the large crystals that came in that kit. So it's just going to kind of flow from one circle into another. And then I'm just going to wire wrap that into a bail like we did with our first crystal. Okay, I'll do one more trip around the sun there and snip in the back. Okay, so now we have a really fun pendant to hang some charms from. So I've got my little Olaf, and I'm going to just put him on a jump ring. And then put the jump ring on my ring here. Close that up. And then I have some other beads that I thought were really cute together. So I got this mermaid glass out of that mix with a little cone bead cap. Just going to make that into a quick, you know what, I'm going to use a different head pin because that's a little short. And I'm just going to do a simple loop on this. And to be consistent, you could absolutely just use jump rings to attach everything. I cut this a little bit too long, so I'm just going to come in here, snip off part of that loop, and rebend. So I think that's what I'll do to be consistent. I'll just use jump rings to attach all of my little charms. I'm going to use this snowflake that was in the mix. I am going to use some other beads. Isn't that cute? He looks like another snowman too. That's a little cute. And I'll just do, that was an extra long head pin. Okay. And then I think I am going to incorporate a couple of these check glass pearls because they're so pretty. And let's see if there's anything else in here that we'd like to incorporate. What about one of these bling balls or the Shambhala beads? And what about this, just the silver? Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to attach everything with a jump ring. All right, so this technique is great to display any kind of dress it up button and any charms or maybe memorabilia you have. So I think this is a really, really cute way to make a charm necklace. If you're not really a charm bracelet person, it's a great way to get some movement going on in your jewelry. And it also kind of serves as like a fidget spinner for jewelry. I love fidgeting with my jewelry throughout the day, and like looking at these charms and seeing how cute they were would really make me happy. So to just kind of make this the focal like we did on the other one, I'm going to use some fairy silk. I have this really pretty pale blue. I don't remember the color, but I will put it on the screen. And here we go. We're just going to thread that right through our pendant. Might need to trim it. We're just going to thread it right through. Just like that. Makes such a wintry cute little necklace. And then I have a toggle clasp from Jesse James Beads that I'm just going to tie right on to the end of my fairy silk. you could wire wrap it on, which I've done in past videos. I'm going to trim this a little bit. You could knot it on like I'm doing. I'm just gonna make a really simple knot. This color is so pretty. Just like that. I'm going to do another one to make sure it's snug. And then I would dot this with maybe some super glue or some, probably not E6000, but some GS Hypo cement to make sure that knot isn't going anywhere over time. I'm going to grab some super new glue. And just dot my knot right there. I will go ahead and finish the other side, and then we'll move on to our pair of earrings. Okay, so here's our little Anna, who's dry now. I grabbed a purple Shambhala bead out of our kit so that these earrings will match with the necklace if you want to pair them. I also grabbed an ear wire. And then we're going to use a couple bead cap and one of these daisy spacers. So we have a daisy spacer and a little flower petal bead cap like we used on the pendant. These are going to be very reminiscent of the pendant. And then we're also going to cut a few inches off of our 20 gauge wire, and we're going to wire wrap. So first I am going to create a wire wrapped loop. But before I close the loop with the wire wrap, I am going to open it up a little bit and slip it on to our pendant or our charm. Just like that. And then we'll close it up a little bit. And then I am just going to do a couple loops right around the top of our wire. Just like that. And we'll snip off in the back. Now, if that's a little too difficult or you're still working on your wire wrap loops, no worries. You can just do a simple loop and then use a jump ring, or just use a simple loop and connect right onto your charm. So I'm just going to snip that off, and we're going to tuck that in a little bit. It's a little out there. There we go. I'm just going to slip on my Shambhala bead, my bead cap, and my spacer. Now I want to pay attention to where or which direction I am wire wrapping my loop at the top. Normally we would just bend back and then bend forward, but we're going to go sideways because I want to put this on an ear wire. So by sideways, I mean we're going to just turn it to the side, and then I'm going to wire wrap that way instead of front to back. You'll see when I've finished with it. So we'll go to the side, reposition our pliers, come back around, reposition our pliers, let our beads fall back down, and come back around. And then we'll just start wire wrapping. That's a very big loop, but if you wanted a smaller loop, you could absolutely do that. And then I'm just going to come around a few times so we can get our beads to stay in place. Get a good wrap around the top. Okay, just like that. Here's our loop. Isn't that cute? And then I'm just going to snip in the back. Bring this back around just a little bit. And that's what I meant by doing it sideways. So the loop is facing that way. Isn't she adorable and sassy, just like her sister? I'm going to put that on the loop of my earring. Close that up. And we have ourselves a pair of Anna earrings that are super adorable and sparkly and definitely frozen and match perfectly with our Elsa necklace. There we go. Isn't that fun? Oh, and we have our Olaf necklace as well, so you can change it up. I'll include some pictures of the finished product, but I had so much fun making and designing these pieces, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye. Goldie, what are you doing back there, bud? Hi, sweetie. You are so cute. Hello. Were you sleeping? I would feel bad about waking you up, but you're always sleeping, right? You're such a good girl. Can you say hello, everybody?